Are we working? I think we're working. I think we're up. Am I up? I think I am. Okay. Jesus. Hi, Brooke. How you doing, honey? Hi, Rike. How you doing? Riley and Mitchell. Hello. Caitlin, I love you too. Um, Sorry, I know this position is kind of awkward and you guys are up my nose, but I'm sitting in bed. That's right. You're in bed with me. Don't tell my wife. Um, Here we are. Okay, guys. Well, this is a sort of a last minute thing I decided to do. Thank you for coming and joining me. Um, I guess I just wanted to talk a little bit about Oxfam again before the campaign ends, and describe to you guys kind of what I'm doing. Sorry if you see my place and it's a mess. It is a mess. Here's the T-shirt, by the way. I'm just going to try and find a comfortable position to sit in. Plenty of hearts. So, okay, let's talk about it. I'll start answering some questions here. David says, firstly, you know what I should do before I do anything else is I should say happy birthday to Nathaniel Bazolich. Happy birthday, Nate, and thank you so much for supporting my campaign. So, what have I been doing, for those of you who don't know? Essentially, I just returned from a trip to northern Uganda, where I visited two of the largest refugee settlements in the world, actually the largest refugee settlement in the world, by the name of Bidi Bidi, which the Ugandan government has been incredibly gracious about accommodating refugees of a terrible war that's taking place in the South Sudan. And I was there to talk with refugees and to learn about what had happened to them and the crisis that had befallen them. And I was there with the marvelous organization of Oxfam, and that was serious education. I will look. I'll grant you, because I can see a lot of questions that are coming up that are originals based, but I'm going to be a little disproportionate today in my answering. For every one question I answer for the originals, I'm going to answer three about my campaign, because that's kind of what I'm here to do. Hey, do you like the fleur-de-lis up there? I got the originals up there. That wasn't intentional. It's above my bed. Does that look narcissistic somehow? All right. Hi from Southern Alabama. Hey, how you doing? Guys, ask me some questions. Ask me some questions. I love you all too. Alia says, don't end it. Alia, I won't end it. What can we do here? I'm just going to scroll through and see if there's any questions. So to talk a little bit about what I saw, what surprised you the most about the refugee settlements. The number of children. There was just a massive community there. You can't believe how incredibly inspiring and resourceful the people are in the refugee settlements. I mean, like, you know, it is mostly women and children. That's what's startling. I'm sure you guys saw that from the images. I mean, 62% of the inhabitants of the refugee settlements are children. And, you know, 83% are women and children. So what's so disturbing about that is kind of like, obviously the scarcity of men. A lot of the men are like remain to fight or have been captured or killed, in the South Sudan. And so when you're there, it has this sort of terrifying feeling of kind of like tremendous beauty and innocence, especially in Bidi Bidi. But what's disturbing is that many of these children, of course, are without fathers, without uncles, without brothers. That so many have been murdered in the conflict. How many have been lost in the conflict? They don't know. The terrifying thing about the war is that they estimate something like 50,000 their lives have been lost in the conflict. And it began in 2013. The country of South Sudan is actually the youngest country in the world, and there was all this sort of jubilation in 2011 when they became an independent nation, and they found a degree of peace. But unfortunately, that all sort of fell apart, and war broke out again in 2013 between this gentleman called Salva Kiir, who's now sort of dominating the government forces there, and Machar, who was his vice president. But nobody really knows the extent of the murders. Nikia Sinclair says, I know that you can donate, but how can you physically get involved, like traveling to support as you have done? Nikia, that's a great question. I mean, one of the big things that I'd kind of recommend is just like sort of, before you even travel, is just open the channels of your news and your information. I think that, as I said the other day, like we've never had more access to what we need and to sort of our own news, and we've never had a greater opportunity to be more sort of frivolous with the news that we feed ourselves, but we've never had a greater opportunity to also be more constructive. So even if you are, say you love canoeing and you love tennis and you love Justin Bieber, those things are all fine and fucking terrific, but I just would urge you to open the door to just understanding what's happening in northeastern Africa, not just in South Sudan, but also in Somalia and Nigeria, and to understand what, and in Yemen, of course, as well. But like, one of the most disturbing things is this massive exodus of people just leaving these countries, particularly due to conflict. And I think that's one of the most confusing things. A lot of people assume that what's happening in South Sudan is like climatic, and that it's something to do with the drought, because there was tremendous drought on the Horn of Africa last year, and so a lot of people think, well, these are natural conditions, these are conditions we can't fight, but that's actually not the truth. This is one of the most surprising things I found about Uganda, and indeed this is true of the country of South Sudan, is that these countries are so lush and so rich and so green, so fucking green and fertile and beautiful, and they have incredible natural resources. It's really purely a conflict thing that is throwing these people out of their homes. Anyway, Rena Muhammad says, is Bonnie your wife? Paula says, when will the original stop? We're in the last season right now. We're in season 5. Hey, from Germany. Hashtag Gillies Army. What do I think about that? I don't know. I'd rather you hashtag Oxfam, to be perfectly honest, or hashtag South Sudan. That would draw more desirable attention from my perspective to a decent cause. Ravishin Pillay, forgive me if I pronounce your name incorrectly, did the sales for the t-shirt go to help these people? It does indeed, Ravishin. What I'm going to do is, basically all of the proceeds that would otherwise go to, that I would otherwise make from this, every penny is going to go to the organization of Oxfam. That's why I'm trying to sell this t-shirt. You can probably see in the, I've made a little, I made a little link there, which is represent.com/Gillies. Go to represent.com/Gillies. You can get one of these t-shirts. And you know what? someone, I'm going to choose someone out of you guys who are on this Facebook Live with me right now. I'll choose someone out of you guys, and I'll give you this t-shirt, because that's the kind of guy I am. It's going to smell weird. It's going to smell like my aftershave, a little bit of sweat. I'm not going to lie to you. That sounds gross, but if someone wants it, it's the kind of guy I am. Boy, there's so many questions. Man, there's 1,000 of you. God bless. That's awesome. Daniel, what can we do to help? Well, one of the first things I would say would be to go. You can go to oxfam.org, oxfamamerica.org. They have a lot of information about exactly what's sort of transpiring, and in really sort of black and white terms, they spell out sort of the nature of the conflict and what's happened. And I think that's just educating yourself on the conflict is a great thing. To make contributions, every dollar counts. And don't forget that the UN. To address this crisis has asked for something like $1.6 billion. And unfortunately, they've received something like 25% of what they've asked the international community for. And there's a couple of reasons for why, theories about why people believe they haven't achieved this financial goal. And one, of course, is that, is donor fatigue. And the idea that, well, there's just, the world's just rampant with tragedies. What does this one mean, and what does it mean to us? And it does. I acknowledge that it does feel sort of distant and strange and sort of intangibly tragic. And even for me, like who had enough. I had enough enthusiasm, curiosity, and desire to go over there, and yet even for me, it didn't become real until I was in those circumstances and spoke with these people and listened to their stories, But I can't remember where I was going with that. How do I feel about Phoebe? I love her. I love Phoebe. She's one of the best people I know. My voice, our fight. Why did you do that? I guess I didn't. There's this condition in this country of like, well, it's not just in the States. It's in the West. That this idea of impotency or don't be dirty, not in the way that you guys. This idea of kind of. Powerlessness, that your contribution isn't going to mean anything, that your version of like helping with this news is not going to mean much. But the truth is, like, your contribution really does matter. Like a little bit from us in the West goes, tremendously far. Do these T-shirts ship worldwide? They do. They ship worldwide. Hi from Belgium. Yeah, I'll ship these. I'll ship these anywhere in the world. I won't personally. That would be expensive and not the best use of resources. But no, represent.com. They ship them worldwide. Again, go to the link that's attached to this, represent.com/Gillies, and you can get one of these T-shirts. We will fucking get it to you. That's a promise. It might take longer than you expect if you live in the middle of the Mojave Desert than it does if you're living in Northern California. But typically people get their T-shirts within like a couple of weeks. So many questions. When you heard about the South Sudan, what about it made you actually care? That's a really good question. That's from Amy Vu. She says, when you heard about the South Sudan, what made you actually care? I think I knew that like 100,000 people in the South Sudan were facing starvation, and I knew that there was a point at which, like, around 1 million were on the brink of famine, and not to mention the 6 million that are described as facing severe hunger, requiring immediate attention. This was once I heard sort of these figures, I realized this was just like a country devastated by this war. You have to understand too that people, that there's a lot of farmland there. There are a lot of crops. Again, it's incredibly lush, but people were fleeing their homes because they were being butchered and massacred, and I would rather not discuss them. I mean, there was massive recruitment of child soldiers. It was it was just sort of tragedy heaped upon tragedy, and people were leaving these realms of productivity and generating their own food and whatnot, and now these people couldn't be farmers. They like a massive source of their food is obviously their agriculture, and without their agriculture they couldn't produce. But also too, there was just when people are fleeing entire settlements and civilizations within South Sudan. I just dropped the phone. Sorry about that. Sorry. There's also no longer markets. It was just you can't. I don't think we can imagine the enormity of this issue. When you think too, like that 10% of that populace. Can you imagine 10% of the population of the United States, which is what are there, 500, 600 million people in the United States? Imagine 60 million people just up and leaving the United States, or running for their lives and terror. Like that's just monstrous. And I think when I knew that there was no safety, particularly if you didn't belong to a particular tribe in South Sudan, then you were in incredible danger. You were either in hiding or you were running for your life. Karis May says, Daniel, are you pleased with how many T-shirts have been sold? Well, Karis, I always wish I could sell 10 million of these. Do you know what I mean? Like I wish I could. But of course, I'm pleased that there's 1,000 of you talking to me right now. It's so gratifying. Do you know what I mean? Eileen Ray says, I want Elijah so much for season 5. So do I, Eileen. Who knows what's going to happen? I'm just scrolling through your questions. How long have I been doing this? People are saying don't swear. Unfortunately, that's what I do. I have a bit of a potty mouth, so I'd apologize if I meant it, but I really don't. I swear. Get over it. I love you, but get over it. I'm going to have a filthy mouth. Tina Morehouse says, have you or are you able to approach world leaders for their support or shed more light on this? I mean, that's such an interesting question. Tina, I don't know the answer to that. I've never tried going through any political routes or venues, like for obvious reasons. I'm a little bit cynical about. I'm as cynical right now about politics as I am about politicians, and maybe I need to get over myself with that because it's too cynical, I think, to just discard the idea of politics and political power. I think that I'm sure that there are people who would have compassion enough to do something about this. I'd like to continue to speak more about this, and I'd like to, certainly, if there were politicians who wanted to be involved and wanted to generate a big sound about this, I would love to rope them into this. If I was ever invited to speak on a platform that was political about this, I would gladly embrace it. You guys are awesome. You're you're so fucking awesome. Christina Bellini. Oh, I remember you, Christina Bellini. Love from Rome. You're so supportive, Christina. I've seen you on my timeline a lot. You're so wonderful. Thank you for being so supportive. Brittany Peck Quigley says, I love when you swear. Heart eyes. I do too. I'm not reading that. That's dirty. Let's take off my shirt, says Helena Petrovic. I will not take off my shirt. I'll tell you what, if we get over 10,000 people on this, I'll take off my shirt. We're not going to get over 10,000 people. Okay. Are you planning to go to Uganda again someday, says Chloe Legrand. You know what? I am, as soon as possible, Chloe. Thank you for asking. Janine Oliveira, the Brazil squad misses you. Sure. Good on you, Brazil. Sorry about my terrible hair today. All right, I'll answer a couple of... I will answer... Whoa, we're getting... Did numbers climb because I said I was taking my shirt off? I'm not taking my shirt off. That's just not going to happen. Dixie Wetley says, oh, Daniel, I love the support you do for others. I wish I had the money to buy a t-shirt. Dixie, don't worry about not having the money. I would never demand that anyone purchase a t-shirt if they can't afford it. What I would ask you to do if you can't afford to make the purchase is to retweet me, to regram information. I'm talking about information that I have about the conflict in South Sudan. I also, anytime you can share with your friends information about what's going on in northeastern Africa, that's tremendous help to me, and that costs nothing. So don't. I mean, I think that's the other thing too. That's the other thing we're fighting. The other cynicism I have is cynicism about our media. That there is, as I've said before, an incredible schizophrenia and frivolity in our news, and we're way more inclined to talk about the reliable stupidity, daily stupidity of Donald Trump than we are to talk about starving, beautiful children in the world. And that is shitty. But you know what's not shitty? These people. Or Oxfam. It's so mesmerizing to see just the strength, the desire to build communities out of nothing. Uganda's not the wealthiest country in the world, and the fact that they're doing what they're doing is just so encouraging. You guys are awesome. We're climbing in numbers. I'm getting more numbers here. Maybe I shouldn't go so quick. I was going to go. Fernando Livio says, I hated you in Bride and Prejudice. Ha ha. Fernando, you're not alone. I hated me in Bride and Prejudice too. Brooke Meyer says, does Elijah get his memories back? You'll have to wait and see, Brooke. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there'd be much of a show if he didn't reclaim at least some of that psychological terrain. We're exploring it right now, but it's a long road back, I'll tell you that. And we're shooting it right now, and it's pretty damn exciting. Where can I get a t-shirt? Guys, go to represent.com/Gillies. You can get one of these t-shirts. All proceeds will be donated to Oxfam. Now, for those of you who don't know what Oxfam do, they're basically this global organization that fights poverty. They've been around for 70 years, I believe. They kick complete ass. I mean, they do anything from, helping with sanitation or getting people clean drinking water, providing food. They provide essentials for living, basically, for people who have been sort of stricken with disaster. They're basically the coolest outfit in the world. I love them. What else can we do? Get this t-shirt, represent.com/Gillies. We've got a gray, someone's asking the colors. I think it's gray, navy blue, red, and what else? Black. I got 4 shirts, says Jennifer Barnes. I love you, Jennifer. That's for you. Thank you for your work with Oxfam. My hair's so terrible, I'm going to put a hat on. It's just, I can't stand looking at my shitty. There we go. It's better. Better, right? Heather Nort says, there is poverty here too. Heather, I hear this argument all the time, and here's why I'm not discrediting any other poverty, I have been to 33 countries in the world. I've seen poverty and I've seen poverty, all right? And the level of poverty that you see in northern Uganda at the refugee settlements, even though as far as refugee settlements go, these people are incredibly well sort of accommodated. I can't compare that to that scale of poverty to what I see in the United States. I'm not trying to diminish anything. I know that there are people that are hungry here in the United States, but you can't. That's a false equivalency. I can't remove one goodness. I'm not gonna be inert. I'm not gonna not act on a terrible tragedy that's happening simply because there's poverty here in the United States. My greatest goal is to raise awareness to the fact that there is a fucking war going on in South Sudan. There is no civil war going on in the United States, and there hasn't been for hundreds of years. This is not just about the poverty. It's about communication and a conversation and a discussion that needs to happen with between millions and millions of people until the powers that be listen. The powers that be being the international community. This isn't. I didn't choose to pursue this lightly. I didn't think. And I think one of the gravest and silliest arguments against doing any good in the world is by naming another tragedy that's almost as large. And Heather, I'm certainly not attacking you. I acknowledge there's poverty here too. There's no war, and you cannot compare what's going on in the United States to what's going on in South Sudan. You just can't. You can't compare 6 million people on the brink of famine, right now as we speak, to what is happening in the United States. That doesn't mean there's not suffering here. There aren't people being butchered in the streets and gang raped. Sorry to take it down to that level, but you have to understand I'm tired of hearing that argument against me. Don't put your hat on, says Helena. I have to. Can you give us some spoilers on Season 5? I definitely cannot. Greetings from Colombia. Hola, Colombia. ¿Qué tal? We love you, Danny. I love the originals. I love you, Eva Horn. Will you come back to Milan someday? I've never been to Milan. Oh, you just said come to Milan. Yeah, I would love to come to Milan. Will you come to Egypt, says Mona Elawadi. I would love to come to Egypt. I'll go with Noah. What else can we talk about? How many people have left? 3 million. 3 million people have fled their homes. So in terms of like out of country refugees, there's 1.5 million, I believe now. And here's another crazy number for you. This is the craziest number. We're not quite there yet, but it's almost 1 million South Sudanese refugees just in Uganda. I mean, Uganda's the greatest sort of sanctuary for these people, so it's natural that they would try and flee there. you have to also understand that fleeing there is just lethal. If you're a family and you're trying to and you're in the southern states of the South Sudan, and you're trying to flee to the south to Uganda, which is your sanctuary, then you run the risk of being murdered if you take the main road. So there's this perilous voyage that many people are taking, which is through the bushes and through the vegetation, off the beaten path, and just in order to seek refuge. It's terrifying listening to the stories. Many people actually in the southwestern states will go through the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. They'll actually go out into other countries just in order to sort of horseshoe it around and back into Uganda. It's terrifying to listen to. I mean, you can't imagine how far the journey is and how relentlessly terrifying it is, because if you're found, you're often murdered or butchered or inducted into one of their armies. What do you think? Okay, guys, I think I should go. Maybe. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today. All right, there's my hair. There's my fucking terrible hair. You're awesome. I got fucking hair. God bless you. I'm just trying to see if there's a closing question. Guys, I'll close with this. Get one of these. Represent.com / Gillies, Gillies. It's in the link on the Facebook Live. And now I'm crouched over like I'm an octogenarian. I feel like I should have one of those walking frames with like tennis balls on them. Okay, I won't do that. Hey, thank you for being here with me today. This was super short notice, and like a lot of you showed up. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you for being part of this. And let's just not forget this what we're doing here should be. What we're doing here should be of massive concern to the international community. So the more you can continue talking about it, the more you can raise awareness, the more you individually can contribute to your own discussion boards, your own methods of trampolining this, the news and word of this conflict into the stratosphere. It all helps. It all contributes. So thank you so much, and I hope to continue doing more work with you guys in the future. You are fucking awesome. Goodbye.